Stats. NightMare. Bunny. Round of 16. Group B.
Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 3.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. Up next, NightMare versus Bunny. We were talking about this on the break state, but you were saying you think that NightMare's got a pretty good shot here.
I could see Kira NightMare advancing from this group. Now, Bunny, of course, is one of the best Terran players in the world. Certainly one of the best Terran players here in GSL, but I think a lot of people almost criminally undervalue NightMare because you look at his games, especially if you're one of those fans that will watch him compete in things like online cups. He's actually starting to put it together. You know, mechanically, it feels like sometimes he's a little bit shaky, especially on stage here at GSL. I think perhaps he's still maybe gets nervous on stage.
Sure.
I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on with that, but this is a guy that, you know, over a period of like 2 or 3 years earlier on in the GSL, he would always make it to Code S, and then he would always fall out. In the first group stage, he would either get last or third place in his group. He wouldn't advance on from that position, and so I think people have this kind of paradigm of NightMare in their head that he's this player that's going to show up and then will not deliver time and time again. But I really think that he has a chance to break out. I believe that this guy has the raw skill to make it to a round of 8 performance or maybe even get a top 6 at a GSL coming up. And, you know, maybe this is finally the time. He's got some better success here. He's coming into the GSL now in its round of 16 and Code S. So in a way, he's getting top 16 and top 12 performances. He's looking better even in online play than he used to. And, you know, maybe a new patch, new maps can be kind of a resetting point for him, and this could be the beginning of NightMare actually finding some success here in GSL. But to do that, he has to get through one of the best Terran players in the business, Bunny.
Yeah, you know, the thing with Bunny, too, is he's been here forever. I don't imagine his heart rate changes at all when he gets into that seat and gets into those games. I mean, GSL is his home. NightMare is one of the players that, like, occasionally qualifies, but just by the fact that he hasn't qualified that much, he has not had as much exposure to some of these other environments. So we'll see if he's nervous this time. Every GSL is a moment to turn a new leaf. But yeah, more TVP for us as we unpack this matchup. Kira really giving us some insane games. Bunny's style is pretty different. Generally a little bit more straight up. It does seem like Kira's become more experimental and doing a lot of kind of weird builds, but then still staying very, very solid. Bunny actually gets up from his PC, so
I wonder if we might have some kind of PC issue or something going on with him. Even NightMare on stage is just like, wait, what's going on over here?
Yeah, we have, he's over at Stats' computer, so I don't know.
He's like, wait, Stats, how do I beat this guy?
I see him moving the mouse, and so on Stats' PC, then he came back over here, so maybe there's something weird with his mouse. Maybe he's like, come here, there's this really good meme I got to show you before I start my match. Hold on.
He's like, hey, look at this replay of you losing to Kiro. Didn't you get embarrassed right there? But no, yeah, it's probably some kind of issue. You know, maybe it's like a refresh rate or something, like especially if he's going in and checking Stats' mouse and like seeing how that's moving on the screen and then going back to his PC. Maybe there's something funky going on.
Yeah, so this happens every once in a while. The staff is usually pretty good at fixing it. We have all these backup PCs with everything already installed on there, so they'll just probably bring that out and change it. Or if they can fix it in the actual PC itself, then we'll do that instead. But I guess it's a mouse issue.
Yeah, it does seem to be that way, especially if he's going over to Stats and just kind of try to check out if everything feels the same on that computer.
Well,
it's like, am I going crazy?
He's like, am I an insane person? Let me just see this. Then it probably went to Stats' PC and says, okay, well, actually, we do have to do something about this.
Yeah, so it'll be a minute before we get into this series, but still, it should be a really good one, and I'm excited to potentially get some more kind of high-quality games in TVP in this new patch. I haven't been able to catch too many of them online, although there's been a lot of online cups. I feel like we haven't really gotten a chance to see a group quite like this one, with 2 Protoss and 2 Terran, where potentially we might have 5 PVTs by the end of the day and just really get to delve into what best of 3s look like with this new map setup. What does a new patch look like? I know a lot of people were speculating on the forums and on social media and also in Twitch chat about really like what is going to happen with Interference Matrix. Are we ever going to see it again? A lot of Terran players were saying that. A lot of the Protoss players were like, well, it's just concussive shell. It's not going to make any difference. Protoss players are still going to die to it. So, I mean, there's kind of a 2 sides to a coin thing with this patch. And we do need a lot of time to see where this patch is going to go. But just from my perspective, I have personally seen Terran players upset, and Zerg players upset, and Protoss players all upset with
Well,
the patch. And if everybody is unhappy, I think that's kind of a good sign.
Well,
You know what I mean?
It comes from a place of love. What I've learned is that you got to let the games pan out. There is a whole, this is a very StarCraft thing too, and I think everybody watching is going to know what I'm talking about, but there is a culture of theory crafting. You go to Team Liquid or you go to Reddit, and you just see people kind of thinking through how this will affect the game and what the outcome will be. But, you know, a lot of times the games do look different than what is going on in the kind of, I don't know, armchair philosopher, expert, you know, theorizing stuff is. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, today is kind of a blessing because you're right. We could end up actually having 5 TVPs, and especially with a new patch on these new maps, if we can just do a deep dive and just see how that matchup works, we're going to get a very good idea of what that is. I was just notified they are going to swap his PC out, so probably a couple more minutes, and then we'll be going into this game. But yeah, let the games pan out. Let's see where it goes, and you know, after we've tested this all out, we'll have a better idea of what needs to be fixed, what does not need to be fixed. I think it's important for StarCraft. 2, unlike StarCraft 1, that this is a living game. I don't mean that in reference to like a dead game meme. I mean that like as in we need to be changing it and patching it and adjusting it. Some of these other esport titles like Smash Melee or StarCraft Brood War, you know, the scene says no, keep it exactly as it is. We don't want to do that. But I welcome the patch and the changes, and then, you know, we get to see, okay, what works, what doesn't. And if something is drastically wrong, something very alarming that we start to see emerge from these games come up over and over again, then we can patch it again.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I like the approach. I like making, you know, small tweaks to the game, not any kind of overarching design changes, and just kind of try to fine-tune it and deliver better games, you know? I mean, Kira, he did go for that Raven push with Interference Matrix in game number 2, I believe, there
yeah.
against Stats, and it still looks strong, and that's what you want it to be. You want it to be viable. You just want it to be a little bit less good, and you know, maybe by the end of the day, we'll see at the end of this GSL, we might have a Protoss champion. We might have Protoss players breaking into top 4 as the meta gets figured out, and I think what we can all really say that we want to see is equal, maybe not necessarily perfectly equal representation, but more winning chances for everybody across the board.
Well, when you have a game with just 3 races or 3 factions, you do want to see each of them do well. It's different from like, let's take like Street Fighter as an example, right? Where there's a ton of characters. Some of them just won't be as good as others, and there's not a ton you can do about that. You can maybe try to nerf better characters or buff the weaker ones, but as long as there is a variety of characters in the game that are viable, that make for interesting matches, it's okay. With StarCraft, yeah, you do want to have each of the races be playable.
Yeah.
Each of the matchups have some semblance of balance, even if there are periods of time inside that matchup where part of that might be difficult. Like some matchups, early game is harder for one race than the other.
That's fine.
Or then it flips and mid-game gets easier for one or the other. But yeah, and that's what the patch is for, is basically to try to tweak it so that you do end up with those outcomes.
Yeah, and I've been playing a ton of this patch, by the way. I think I
see you
have
streaming it.
I think I'm pretty close to 1,000 games, not just on this patch, but in like the past month or like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I've been grinding. I truly have no life, but it's been a lot of fun.
Sometimes that's the way to do it, is to have no life and grind it out.
It's refreshing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a little bit sad here in GSL Code S. Like, we've gone through, I think, 6 series now, and we haven't really seen all of the new maps. Some of them are kind of wonky.
Yeah.
You know, I like Raduset Station. I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. It's like some Swedish word. It's like Raduset or something. I feel like I'm going to sound stupid if I try to pronounce it the Swedish way, because I will not get it right. But there's some really unique designs in the game. It feels refreshing. You know, the patch, it made a couple of changes, but you can still feel the difference as you're playing the game. The new maps are a lot of fun. And, you know, it's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to eventually getting to that finals day here in GSL when we start to play some best of 5s, some best of 7s. We get to go a little bit deeper into this map pool, because I am a little bit afraid that over the course of the group stages here in the round of 16 and then the round of 8, that given the vetoes, we're going to be playing on more of the standard maps. Like, we were talking about this before we went live today, how on day 1 it kind of felt like we only saw maybe 3 or 4 total maps out of 9.
It will probably be like that for a little bit. It always seems like we'll have new kind of creative maps brought in, and the pro gamers will just avoid that.
Yeah,
Because
you can't
why?
really blame them.
Well, no, I can't either, because when I play, I'm like, I want to be on maps that I'm comfortable on, right? And so you want to lean towards the maps that are, have ordinary, normal features. But yeah, when we get to best of 5s, best of 7s, that's when those maps are going to get forced onto the players.
Yeah.
Although we have a lot of maps for this season.
Yeah,
We have
9
maps.
9 maps in total. I think
In the best of 3 process, the players get 3 map vetoes each.
Yeah, so I mean, that's part of the reason why we're kind of always vetoing down to basically the same maps it feels, but I mean, it's still early to say. This is something that could evolve even as quickly as from the round of 16 to the round of 8, right? The patch has only been live for like a week and a half, 2 weeks on the Korean server, so it's very much something that's still getting figured out, but it's been really refreshing watching these games, especially having very good representation for Protoss, Terran, and Zerg this season. We got 6 Protoss, 5 Terran, 5 Zerg. Anytime you have like a 6-5-5 split with any of the races, that's going to be a lot of diverse content, and it's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's been really a blast. Like, day 1 was completely killer. I could not have anticipated Group A going the way that Group A went. And then here in Group B, as you said, the deep dive into PVT matchup, it's something to look forward to. We're only one series in.
It. Yeah, and I mean, I'm curious how different this one is going to look. One thing about Stats is the way that he plays does create a very specific type of game. Stats is, as far as my memory goes back, not the guy who's going to go 4-gate blink all in. He's not the guy that's going to do some kind of a weird cheese. He just likes to play a kind of development-oriented game. And honestly, he did a pretty good job against Cure, all things considered. Maybe not in Game 2, but in Game 1, I mean, he basically parried everything that Cure had. Cure had this miraculous counterattack that closed it out. But NightMare has a very different approach, so Bunny and NightMare should create a pretty interesting best of 3 coming into this now.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Stats looked pretty good in that game number 1. Now, he did have a very nice start catching the proxy barracks on his side of the map early, so, I mean, you always have a little bit of momentum coming into a mid-game from that, but he did look solid. And actually, I was looking at some GSL replays because they came out so quick from the Patreon that I was doing some review of them yesterday on stream, and somebody asked the question, like, if you were to resume from replay with, like, different pro gamers, what are the odds that, like, Mario wins the all-in versus Scarlet in Game 2? And that was something that I actually hadn't really considered as, like, a thought experiment kind of thing. But going back to that game 1 with Stats versus Cure, if you put the players back into that situation, like, 100 times, how often is Stats actually winning that? And I feel like it's a lot closer to 50-50 than you might think. His position was not very bad against Cure. It's just Cure had the killer instinct to go for the base trade, and he knew how to navigate it defensively back at home very well, while also eliminating the infrastructure for Stats on his side of the map. And I feel like for Stats, getting into a situation like that one, even with the lead that he had, bodes well. Because in PVT, especially against Korean Terrans, since he has come back from military service, his win rate, it's kind of abysmal. PvP and PvZ, he's a lot more solid, although he's nowhere near the peak form that he had in the past. PVT has been a lot of trouble for him. And so going up against arguably the best TVP player in the world, certainly one of them in Cure, in game number 1 and looking that solid, getting up to 4 bases, maybe he actually can advance from a group that on paper looks challenging him just because of Bunny and Cure, right? So
Sure. I mean, when I looked at that game from Cure, one of my takeaways is that he understands how to look at priority. There are so many attacks happening, and I think there's this misconception that you'll have from people that watch a lot of StarCraft that what a pro gamer's doing is they're doing everything at once. That's not true. You can only be doing 1 or 2 things at a given time. Really, at the highest level, you're trying to figure out what takes priority. Where's your screen going to be? What are you going to micro? What are you going to set and forget and move on? And when I watch Cure's playback there, you can see he knows exactly which fight is more important to micro and eke out more damage. And even in that base trade, do you focus more on the defense there and holding that, or do you focus more on trying to carve your way into the main and kill everything off? And it seemed like he was able to go back and forth in between the two of them and do a pretty perfect game. And I think that's one of the reasons why he is so scary in this matchup is that there are ways to hit Protoss from multiple different angles and punish them. And Protoss is a race that it has access to mobility in some ways, but that's like with the recall, that's almost like a resource of its own.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time in the matchup, if the Protoss isn't there, ready to directly counter, like the drop or the run by or whatever it's going to be, problems will arise. And so, I think we're actually going to go back into this game.
We're getting into it. All right. Yeah, I think the computer issue is resolved. Game is loading up.
Yes.
It's a long break, but I enjoyed that little chat we had.
So I've been told Bunny had an issue with his mouse, and the studio provided him with another mouse. And so now we're ready to go in that game. Let's go. So it wasn't us. It was Bunny's equipment.
Oh, wait. It's a very early scout coming out from NightMare.
Esports Nightmare.
It's like, I saw Kier try this.
he builds the gateway on the map. He's like, wait, this doesn't make a Marauder.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, the race. Yeah. Okay, so then, that's actually
Gaming, Bunny.
NightMare coming out immediately across the map.
And this is something that we've seen Hero do a lot, and it's starting to catch on, where you send this probe immediately across the map, and you don't even really go for proxy. You just try to get harassment in as early as possible. And oftentimes, Protoss players will follow this up with, a Zealot, 19 Nexus, and then we'll chrono out an Adept. And one of the benefits of having this probe out on the map this early is the harassment, although it seems like it might not be that substantial. If you hit a good number of SCBs, especially the SCBs that are building buildings and are closer to the natural expansion, if just one hit from that probe means the Adept 2 shots it instead of 3 shots it. It's the same way with Marines.
That's really big. And, yes, you can repair, but that doesn't really happen at the start of the game. It's so important that you get all your initial structures up and sort of get that rhythm going that, just doing these little chips of damage can actually pay off much later on.
A lot of fans coming down here. Really some good audiences
from
left
London.
from London.
Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. People around the world.
I know.
Oh, look at that.
From
scary.
Switzerland. That's a terrifying bunny.
It's spooky season.
Or is
tasteless.
that bunny shot in the face? What's going on? Oh, those are fangs.
Oh, they're fangs. I also thought it was like
Serbia.
blood coming out of the nose or something. I was like,
You thought
that's morbid.
It was a bunny with a bloody nose.
Who knows? Maybe NightMare's going to really beat him up in this series. We'll have to wait and see.
So NightMare's got his expansion up. He's going to have it up. Excuse me. Not quite there yet.
Yeah, it did not opt to go for the Zell, and actually going to chrono boost out a Stalker, so not exactly the opening I was expecting, but, with that probe, still getting a lot of early scouting information. If you want to go against a Terran player who can't be cheeky like Bunny is with these early game builds, it's a nice way of playing it, and we'll see exactly how NightMare decides to navigate this one. Interestingly, he decided to wall in at the natural expansion, which is not something you see very often in PBT, partly because of what we're looking at right now in the main base. Having that gateway rallied so far away from the main mineral line means that Reapers often have a good avenue and a pretty large timing window where they can get damage done in the main, but NightMare, his control is better than pretty much everybody watching at home right now, so not going to lose any probes. And actually, look at this, a really fast armory coming in from Bunny. We might have some Cyclone shenanigans.
So we've wanted to see, what does it look like with the changes with the Cyclone, and how exactly is it going to pan out. So this is a game where we have one made. Prior to the patch, the Cyclone was sort of like a Swiss Army knife unit where you could do, one or two of them could do a lot to defend, maybe even harass. Some of these little technical two-base pushes that we have come out for the Terran, the Cyclone was handy there, but now it seems like the Cyclone is more of a unit you would incorporate in with everything else.
Tasteless. This isn't going to be a Cyclone shenanigan. This is Drilling Claw's Widow Mine drop.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh my goodness. When's the last time we casted a PBT where they went Drilling Claws off of
this early? It's been a while.
One of the changes from the patch is that Drilling Claws is actually slightly better. I don't think the burrow speed has changed. I'm pretty sure that is the same, but the unburrow speed has gotten a little bit quicker, and so there is some possibility that Bunny's going to come in with a Drilling Claws drop. And NightMare actually the hallucinated Phoenix Scout. I don't think he saw the tech lab on the factory.
I don't think the vision's big enough. Yeah,
no,
he did not. So
that's big.
Yeah, just like literally a couple pixels further down, and it would have seen that. But for now, we're gonna have to see, how quickly can NightMare react. Like we were saying when we were buying time during that technical delay, so much of the early game and mid game for Protoss is preemption. It's trying to stop what is going to be coming before it can really start. So we're going to see this push come out here. The upgrade is 5 seconds out, so it's going to be done as this drop comes in.
And NightMare notably does not have a robotics facility yet.
Yeah,
It's just now
started.
going down. That armory not only does it unlock drilling claws, it is going to burrow so quick. Oh, these are going to be big hits.
8, what?
And that's not the end of it either, Tasteless,
No,
because that Robo, we might have 2 more shots from those Widow Mines in the natural expansion. And Bunny's also taking a hidden base. This
Dude,
is like
this
a
is
Protoss
nasty.
build.
I'm actually a little bit mad watching this. This is, you can't do both of these things to get away with. This is wrong.
Oh, this is so cool. I love to see this from Bunny. I mean, NightMare kind of took a gamble going for 2-gate blink expand like this. Now, he does have their good read on when these Widow Mine drops, or when these Widow Mines attacks, excuse me, are going to reset, so he doesn't lose any probes from the follow-up, but a lot of mining time is lost.
Oh, gosh. Oh, he's going to lurk just at, oh, I thought he was going to drop over the natural. He's going to go into the main instead. Here we go. How fast is NightMare this time?
Oh, that might not be fast enough.
Oh.
So close.
Whoa, something just flew above the screen there. That was weird. Like a bicycle just flew by the camera. He does get the kill on the medevac. The observer's here, so the Widow Mines can't be the same threat they were before. But, I mean, dude, the lost mining time.
Yeah.
The workers that were killed, 8 were killed in that initial drop, which is huge. And there's this hidden base down here.
Kind of a crazy opening here from Bunny, but I got to commend the NightMare up until this point. The first, oh boy, hold that thought as the drop comes in again. Oh, I love this. He's following the probes as they run away into the main base, but look at the split coming in from NightMare. That was very well done. Only 6 probes in total going down. That easily could have been double digits.
Where's the observer? Okay, it's going to pop out now. He should be able to kill off all of these Widow Mines. I don't know. Did he get the one in the main? He did. So keep in mind, this is really ingenious to do the hidden base when you're doing this build. First of all, your observers had to stay back because they had to detect. So you just don't have a lot of scouting. This has always been a feature with Protoss, by the way, is like if you could control the role of the observer, you're going to control how much they're going to be scouting on the map freely, right? So he's had to even keep the second observer back at home because he knows the threat of drops is so real. So when is this hidden base going to be scouted? Probably not for a while. It seemed like hidden bases weren't trending that much in StarCraft 2, but a couple of years ago they were getting more popular. It does seem like it's a cyclical thing. Like everybody starts to do it, then it becomes too commonplace, and then it goes away. But we're going to have another medevac come through here now. Blink is done, so we got to see, can he actually see this?
Yeah, he's going to see it. He was waiting in the wings. Very well played there by NightMare in a really fast storm. Now, I got to commend NightMare for his defense here against these. Oh, my goodness, that observer basically
I feel
hit
like
the
this is what,
cameraman.
if you're a pro observer, you have to be able to fly into debris as things get blown up.
There's probably pro observers from around the world just watching this, just like nodding their head. Well
Yes,
done,
wow,
buddy.
he's good.
But man, NightMare did not take too much damage from that. He actually handled it quite well. The question is, with this mostly Blinkstalker force, he does have a lot of gateways done, but this is a dangerous timing window. He's investing a lot, getting Storm out, but it's not finished just yet, and there might be an angle of attack here for Buddy to come in with this bio timing and potentially get damage done, but also behind that, I mean, 4 command centers already coming online. NightMare might have just enough to hold on here.
Yeah, he's going to try to come in here and arc around this. Widowmine shots are pretty good. The Storm whiffs entirely.
I feel like that was a Storm that he might have queued up before when the bio was moving and then thought he canceled, but instead it actually went through. So only 2 more Storms available with this army, but NightMare has done a great job of rebounding from a build that almost certainly caught him off guard.
You know, the problem right now is that NightMare is operating off incorrect information. And so he's assuming that Terran just now took a third. Terran's actually even on bases. And so this is one of those games where it can be extremely frustrating because you might lose and like literally not know what happened. And I've even seen some situations where pros won't look at the replay. They're too tilted. They'll go right back into the game and not actually realize what went wrong back there. But this time around, we have a push coming in. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a possibility that 4th base is, or the hidden base is scouted so late, it just looks like it's a 4th base. And NightMare never really figures out what's happening here. Bunny's at 164 supply and doesn't seem to have an army that can actually take a fight more than 1 or 2 Psy Storms coming down.
Oh, that blink.
What?
That is some miscontrol right there from NightMare.
Okay, quick hit the debris. Oh, all right.
Maybe a little bit of jitters, but I believe NightMare was exactly as you said, caught off guard by the amount of bio that Bunny had.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, what is going on here?
Because that third base has certainly paid for itself by now. Now, the storms for NightMare coming through are pretty good in a vacuum, but the problem is NightMare is not really able to engage off of these. So the Medivacs, they've already basically healed the bio back up. Oh, EMP comes in. All those Templar nullified on the south side, and Bunny is about to run over this army from NightMare.
Okay, Stim comes up, and I think we're almost to the end of this game. I mean, this is just such an overwhelming amount. You know, the Widow mine drop was good, but the hidden base was even better. And we're seeing the complexity of NightMare's army just get diminished. Zealots are falling. We should be going into game 2 shortly here.
And NightMare's got to be scratching his head a little bit with this one.
It's like, what? Why do you have so much stuff? I didn't miss any pylons. I made all the probes I needed. Even with my 8 probes that were killed early on, this doesn't seem like it makes any sense. So I think a really well planned out build. The fact that you do that Widow Mine drop controlled where the observer is and then come in with a move like this is really smart. GG, Bunny takes game 1 as the Terrans are just smashing the Protosses.
I mean, Cure and Bunny, just 2 of the best Terrans in the business, and I love what Bunny brought to the table in that game. That was not a build that I was expecting to see from him at all.
Yeah.
The burrow speed Widow Mine drop with Drilling Claw just coming in, gets a pretty reasonable amount of damage, but I think from Protoss's perspective, if you lose 8 probes to something that required an armory, required an upgrade, you eventually kill the Widow Mines, it's not the end of the world, you know? It could have gone so much worse for NightMare.
The build was really good. Really good build.
The hidden base from Bunny, NightMare, you know, he probably was feeling all right about his defense right there. You know, he's like, okay, I didn't take too much damage. I'm going for a really fast storm. I'm taking this rapid third base. There should be a window where I can get something done. But because the observer was stuck at home and he didn't get scouting, he could not read. You'd actually see him laughing a little bit. I think he did go into the rewind and saw the hidden base there from Bunny, and he's like, okay, you got me. I got outsmarted a little bit here. That explains why my aggression didn't work. Let's see if he can come into Solaris here in game number 2 and bring it back.
Solar's map. See how they play on this.
Match2 Esports NightMare. Mystery Gaming Bunny.
All right, some Bunny support here.
Up you win. I love that because of Bunny ears above him. We have some incredible signs this season. What happened?
I guess the question is, can Bunny make himself come out of a hat here?
So this is a very different build than we saw in game number 1 from NightMare. You know, we were wondering if something shaky was going to happen with that early probe, but NightMare actually coming in with the same insta-scout here against Bunny, but behind it sent a second probe across the map and is going to be proxying something in the third base, and it's a second gateway tasteless.
Yeah, so we're going to go with the old Max Packs build here.
I like this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got to wait and see how ready Bunny is for this. This build has always been quietly in the background of the many different openers that can happen. It is sort of a, I mean, it is kind of a known strat, but it has been less popular in Korea. So I don't know how prepped Bunny is for this. The way that Bunny's playing sets up nicely to punish, for the Protoss to punish the Terran with.
Oh, and Bunny's going to go Reaper after Marine, not Marine into Reactor. So there might be a little bit of an opportunity here should Bunny go for that Reactor follow-up behind the Reaper, because it's going to be a while until Bunny gets a significant number of Marines out to deal with this. Factory now coming down. Stalker already getting Chrono. 2 Stalkers, in fact, both from the main base and the proxy. And I really think there's potential for NightMare to get a lot done with these openings. And that Barracks, I do believe is going to lift off and go for an add-on. Now Bunker is coming in as Bunny sees the Zealot. And here comes the Stalker. That Bunker's nowhere near completion. That Marine is just going to have to get traded out instantly here.
Yeah, the Zealot gets the kill over there. The Reaper does escape. All the SCVs are going to come down now.
Yeah, this is a very good reaction. Oh, from Bunny.
Ooh.
He tries to go for the surround there on the Stalker. He would have been able to get it, but just barely shy. These SCVs, a lot of them are going to go down, but the Bunker will eventually get up.
Yeah, of course, you know, the Reaper, not that threatening inside of a bunker versus Stalkers, but it's held. The command center can be mined from. The question is, you know, how much more do you want to try to push this? There aren't SCVs down here to repair, so it seems like the game plan is basically to just keep putting pressure on here. One SCV is not enough to repair it, but as a third infantry unit goes inside, I think the math gets a little bit more difficult to calculate. Is it going to be worth it to give up hull damage to try to maybe take that bunker down?
Oh, and I love that move from Bunny. It's so small, but just poking out with a Reaper, hitting the Stalkers that are out of shield so they don't regenerate and they can't poke and prod again, as you said.
It's so smart.
And Bunny just brilliant here. That Cyclone should be able to chase down this Stalker. Very good in these early game engagements. It's really the new role of the Cyclone here in PBT, is that you're able to take trades like this one.
Pushes it right into where the gateway is.
And that's great value right there for the Cyclone.
I mean,
it is cheaper now. That's what it is designed to do, is try to handle these early gateway attacks in this matchup. And it does a great job of anchoring the defense there for Bunny. And now we're kind of going into a macro game without either player being too far ahead or behind. I mean, it's kind of a funky opening, not something that we see too much here on the new patch. I would give a slight edge to Bunny, but NightMare certainly has some chances. He got a good number of SCVs there. He was able to kill, I think, was it what, one or maybe even two Marines in the early game, so certainly did get some value, but Bunny, especially after picking off two Stalkers with that Cyclone, really solidifying his position back at home.
Yeah, Reaper comes up here now. Any probe hits you can get are going to be worth it. Can you get a kill on this one, or is it going to get to the battery in time? It does not. So 2 kills, that's actually pretty big. The gateway, meanwhile, is going to fall. No surprises there. The question now is there counterplay? Can the Terran try to come out on the map and really do some damage? Or is it a more wise decision to basically stay back and power up as the Terran?
Other barracks in production here for Bunny. I'm curious as to whether that is the second or the third racks coming in. Haven't gotten a shot of the Terran production set up for a while. I see now that the starport is done. Medevac coming across the map, so it seems like it was kind of a 1-1-1 here into this Medevac in. Oh, this is a dangerous situation. No, that Medevac's not going to unload, and 5 Stalkers beat these 2 Cyclones. So NightMare, with some great instinct there, moving across the map, catches a ton of supply, and even using the acceleration zone there to take out the Cyclone. You can feel kind of the momentum shifting a little bit, where Bunny, after that early game value he got on defense with the Cyclone, was feeling pretty good, but now with Blink complete and NightMare catching, I mean, what was that, 14 supply and some critical high-tech units from Bunny, he has the real opportunity to get damage done. There's only 4 Marines and 1 siege tank, and that siege tank is going to have to really anchor the defense here for Bunny. And look at these Marines, also very low on HP.
Yeah, he's continuing to chip away, killing off SCVs where he can.
Oh, that's
the
still
tank
in range.
siege mode, yeah, he's going to have to figure out how much longer he wants to try to stay over in that area. The War Prism just came out. There's more Stalkers coming up. You know, you could just try to blink up into the main.
Oh, this is 4-gate blink as well.
Yeah.
You know, that might have been enough damage, killing those Cyclones and those 10 Marines. That NightMare might be able to trade quite well. Oh, Interference Matrix again. Researched here by Bunny. Seeing both him and Kier opt for that very early here with these Raven openings. But the Stalker is coming in.
Okay, so these Stalkers are coming up, and they go right on top of the tank.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage being done.
It's kind of a weird interaction there where he scooped up the rest of the Stalkers.
Now you see Hero really, him and MaxPax are kind of the pioneers of this. MaxPax in Europe certainly was the player that popularized this the most, but Hero has been doing a ton of this 4-gate blink stuff himself. And once you get this critical mass of Stalkers, I believe it is 11 to one-shot a siege tank like that, you can do some really tricky micro, like blinking forward, sniping the siege tank, and then basically using the Warp Prism as a second blink. And oh my goodness, the Raven gets caught out as well. And that might be the breaking point. There's only 2 siege tanks right now here for NightMare. Bunny is still heavily committed. Observer gets sniped out. There is no third Nexus for Bunny just yet, or for NightMare, excuse me, just yet. Charge gets started, probe cut, and more gateways coming down, Tasteless. He's gonna go for the killing move.
Yeah, he's gonna try to blink in here. As long as the tank count is low, you can't have them spread out where they covers everything. So he blinks up there. He now has the entire army. Now the blinks are gonna be staggered because he didn't do this all at once, so it's a little bit harder to dive. You have to wait for the entire cooldown to reset. But it looks like instead he can make these Zealots to run in here and tank damage.
This is almost like a push from Bridor with the Zealots trying to drop on the siege tanks
it's
here.
Like the Bulldog where you drop the Zealots on top of the tank. That's exactly what he's doing. The infantry are going to come back here and fight. A lot of SCVs are going down. 14 now, 17 total have been killed as a recall saves the remainder of those Stalkers.
And I think overall that's a pretty good trade there for NightMare. He got a lot of the damage done on Bunny's side of the map, 20 SCVs in total going down. Oh, and Bunny has a bad read on this game. Oftentimes, if you go for this 4-gate max pack style, you take a third base behind it, you play very mineral heavy, and you try to macro. That is not what NightMare's doing. He's going into charge, he's building more Stalkers, he's building a lot of gateways back at home, and so Bunny might actually be falling into a trap. We'll have to see what the production setup is going to be here for NightMare. If he has one big warp in, maybe he can get something done, but actually Bunny.
I mean, he's got a lot. You know, the Stalkers are just not
SCV
quite
pull.
trading out.
Yeah, this changes the dynamic a ton. You can see NightMare really trying to set up a trap almost against Bunny, but with the SCV pull, I think that might give enough bulk to this force for Bunny to, in fact, get a lot of damage done on the Protoss side of the map.
The force field is not ideal. You can see Bunny's going to tear down the rocks and open this wide up. And, I mean, again, the Stalker's taking a ton of damage. The SCV's coming to the front to soak. The tanks are still in range here. I mean, is it possible for NightMare to hang on? I'm not so sure.
He might have bled out a little bit too much. This SCV pull is so smart from Bunny. So much HP was absorbed by those SCVs. If it was just the Marines, then maybe NightMare would be in a good position to hold. But instead, despite going for this, 7-gate with charge and blink style, he's not getting too much done. But look at Bunny's side of the map. There is literally no economy.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to take this Nexus out. There's no way to stop that. 2 Archons finished, so I don't even know what's mining back at home right now for Bunny. I mean, he looks like he's really hurting. He could still drop mules here. A scan is going to shell that Zealot. You know, if he just gets a siege tank a little bit closer, he can start to hit all these units that are on the low ground just behind the natural.
Well, it's just such a dynamic fight right now. NightMare has to keep those sentries alive, try and get force fields or guardian shields with value. He's still supply blocked. He's lost so many pylons and the Nexus back at home. I love that force field just eliminating
so sick.
The surface area there for the Marines. He's going to blink out the Stalkers and just try to defend the main.
But there's nothing that... Oh, he's going to recall that. I was about to say there's nothing he can do. I was wrong. So there are... Basically, there's nothing mining in the main. There are a couple patches left over here. So it is still possible for NightMare to hold this.
Yeah, NightMare literally just has to hold this army. If he can defend this push, he wins the game.
It seems like if he was going to attack, he should have done it before the tank sieged up.
Well, the thing is, he was supply blocked for so much time. He wanted to get at least one more warp in. And also, keep in mind, with all these stims, these medevacs very low on energy, so the healing won't be quite as substantial in this fight.
That is true.
He's just trying to find the perfect moment to come in. It's do or die right now for NightMare, and here he comes, Tasteless.
Here we go. The tank at the bottom is going to siege up. He goes right on top of that first tank. The second tank falls. Zealots coming in here from behind. The Archon falls, and it's just going to be this infantry. Again, not a lot to heal here. I think he barely wins this. I think Terran barely takes this fight. Hold on.
Zealots more warping in. These Marines are so low on HP, but there's only 2 Stalkers left.
Oh my God, I think that's it. That's game. GG.
Wow. Whoa, what a game.
That was such a great game.
And I gotta give so many props there to Bunny. If he doesn't pull the SCVs with that push, he loses that game. Those Marines, the tanks, will not have enough sustain to actually make that push happen, but they absorbed so much of the damage there from NightMare that he was just barely able to thread the needle. Those Marines had almost no HP left. And in an insane 0 economy game there for Bunny, he was able to just barely push through and defeat NightMare. What a crazy PBT.
It was wild. The fact that he pushed through on a 7-gate 2-base Protoss as well. Like when I saw him coming out, I'm like, no, this literally can't work, right?
Yeah, it felt like he had the wrong read, but you know what? If you pull those SCVs, you actually can go toe-to-toe for the Protoss that is powering on those 2 bases.
So this means we're going to be doing a brief exodus from PVT. It's going to be 2 Terrans in a mirror matchup, then 2 Protosses in a mirror matchup. And then, guys, don't worry, because no matter who wins where, we're going to have a PVT again to close the show out.
And what a fun start to Group B here.
Yeah.
Both Terrans showcasing some really cool builds. I love the way that Bunny played in this one. I have to see what he has in store for us in TBT later.
All right, guys, we're going to be going to a break in a second here. When we come back, the winners match to see which of these 2 Terrans is going to be advancing into the next round. We'll be right back.